When I was about 13, my father passed away.
I started getting high in like 9th grade.
I was shooting dope when I was 16 years old.
From the time I was about 13, 14 years old, that, bar mitzvahs and fill-in parties and things like that, I started drinking whenever I could.
I couldn't imagine living life without a drink, without a drug, without anything in order to be happy.
I was working in the community before our place existed, and Brooklyn was the place to come. There were hundreds of kids on the streets, in pool halls, in the pizza shops. They were losing their faith, and they were using drugs, and they were just doing behaviors that were inappropriate.
What we were doing back then was we were going to where they were hanging out, and we would go to some of these house parties and pool halls.
They used to hang out on the Playboy Billet place on Coney Island, where they had drugs, alcohol, and girls.
And I don't think anybody had any idea what it would turn into. It was just, let's save these kids from killing themselves.
The Orthodox community, I'd say about 8 years ago, really got introduced to this whole teens at risk phenomena that was happening.
You cannot blame a community for being in denial when they see kids doing drugs and they don't know why and what it's about. They just want to protect their own.
And I was the same way. I denied that there can't be an existence of boys and girls having drugs and all in our neighborhood.
Well, I think we're evolving as a community, is stopping to be frightened of kids doing drugs and starting to understand why they're doing it.
I think it's like all about awareness. Like they think these girls have such bad attitude and they're such bad kids, but they don't know that their father's sexually abusing them at home.
The happiness-pleasure paradigm. The kids who are not finding happiness, they'll substitute pleasure for happiness. And they don't realize pleasure is short-term, short-lived, and they do it, they indulge themselves in some pleasure because they're hurting terribly because of what's happened to them.
Every single kid who's here, there's a reason why they're here. There's a reason. There's things that many, many years before they got to this place, things were going on in their lives internally that led up to a situation where they'd be in the streets or doing drugs or not religious anymore. These things have a cause.
Now, if we're not going to develop a place for them or a system that's going to catch them and let them continuously live, well, basically we've destroyed a life.
To tell you the truth, I didn't really have, I don't have parents, you know what I mean? And,
well, I was pretty suicidal and depressed, and
I couldn't hold a job. Every job I had, I got fired from. I couldn't wake up to get to a job, and I was using a lot.
My first drug, Ritalin, was in 5th grade. I must have been, 10 years old at the time.
I used to get locked up a lot when I was younger. You think the cops care if you get locked up? I was 15 years old in the cell, Come on, they don't care. Out there, nobody cares.
If our place wouldn't have been here and the living room wouldn't have been here, we would have had a life like all the junkies and a lot of the crackheads and a lot of, just the robbing, stealing people, because when it comes down to it, whatever you are, you're all capable of the same stuff. Our place held us back from doing a lot of that stuff.
We have countless guys here who their only, full wholesome meal the whole day is the supper that they get here.
I'm not embarrassed. I was out in the street a lot, when I was stuck, I realized, came down, I was like, all right, I'm gonna go to our place, I'm gonna eat something, Starving.
like the living room has saved my life, they're a huge part of my story. They're like a huge part of who I am today.
Many of the feelings that we've had that drove us to do the things that we did, we could all relate to. Whereas in the past, I thought that I was the only one who felt that way. And I feel like without coming to the living room, without being introduced to our place, I wouldn't have found that.
They care. They're not getting anything for it. You know, they're not getting paid for it, you know. And they give you, like I said, they give you that feeling, you know. Like, you're not just some guy in the street that's getting into fights, you know. You're more than that.
If you are a teenager and you walk into our place for the first time, you'll immediately feel the warmth. One of the staff members will immediately come over to you and greet you, ask you what your name is, where you're from, and try to engage you in conversation in a very unthreatening way. Most of the kids who come down here are absolutely shocked by the greeting they get, since these kids have been through one rejection after another from the community, from their family, from even their friends, and here they come down and they get unconditional love.
We don't judge anybody. We take them in however they are. Our idea is to look at the person just as a person and bring them in and show them love.
We're not getting paid, okay? A lot of them are volunteers. You know what? It's the compassion that we have for these children and the feelings that we have for them. You could see how we relate. I would say that I would have been a dropout had I been 14 years old today. I would have been one of these kids.
Some of the things that I've seen people sacrifice their time with their families, and just, it's not easy being here from 7 to 11. People would rather be relaxing with their families, but the staff here is just incredible. And the kind of dedication that you have from the guys here is just, you can't put it into words.
We're not cool, I must tell you. Our staff don't act cool with the kids. The kids don't like that. We act very straightforward and very mature and very responsible with the kids, and they appreciate being treated that way.
You know, we believe that God's, puts us through these struggles for a purpose, and we've seen that purpose because we see the kids giving back and using it to grow.
We're trying to heal some real broken souls, and it's worth it.
The pool table is really the sugar-coated medicine that gets them in here and entices them to come and hang out here and stay here. But the truth is the real work starts in the rooms off to the side. That's where our drug counselors and our social workers get to do one-on-one work with the kids.
What we developed in our place is called whole life therapy. We find out exactly what he needs. If he needs a job, we'll get him a job. He needs to get back into school, we'll get him into school. We'll get him into rehab.
I can't count the amount of times our place has sent me to rehab, sent me to detox.
When I went to rehab, I couldn't afford rehab. Sonny came up with the funding.
Unfortunately, what we're facing on a weekly basis, which is kind of scary, is at some points we don't know if we're going to make it week to week.
We try to think in a way that come up with what we need, and then we'll figure out how to pay for it later. And we try to do that, but we hit points where we just can't. If we had more funding, we would be able to send more guys to the programs that they need.
Some of these kids are thrown out of the house. They have crash pads where they go together, and many of them don't have a place to stay. And we have certain things that we do find in places, and that costs us money, and the money is hard to come by.
There are kids leaving rehab, and we have nowhere for them to go. And these are our people, and we don't have a right to send them away. And this is the last place. This is their light tower. This is where they could come and feel still part of the community.
If I had more resources, there would be more people like me. I'm definitely sure of that.
And with the proper funding, you're almost guaranteed that you're going to save a kid's life.
What if our place didn't exist?
I mean, if I didn't have an art place, then I wouldn't be where I am. I know I wouldn't be where I am. And I know a lot of people are not going to be where they could be.
Probably be dead.
honest.
Oh my God, I can't even imagine. I'll tell you the truth. You know, if I had nowhere to go and I was still hanging out in the street, I don't know.
We are a nation that had to take care of ourselves, and we are taking care of ourselves. And this is where it is. This is where it's at. Our place.